President Trump calls for churches to reopen while Governor Newsom vows to release guidelines for reopening. Miles McPherson, senior pastor at the Rock Church, joins us this morning. Good morning. How you doing, Miles?
How you doing? What's happening?
Doing good. So Governor Newsom, he's expected to make this big announcement today. Do you believe that he's going to talk a little bit about reopening, at least give you guys a plan to open your doors again?
I heard that. As a matter of fact, I heard him say he's going to give guidelines today, so we'll see what happens and what those restrictions are. I've heard glimpses of what the CDC has said and what other churches have dealt with, so we're just going to wait and see what he says and then evaluate what we do.
Let's talk about what people can expect. You guys have several locations, a very big congregation. So what will the church look like when it reopens?
Well, that's yet to be seen. I know about the hand sanitizers, the no-touch garbage cans, and I've heard glimpses of stuff from the CDC and 25% of the sanctuary. One of our campuses is on a public school, so that's a whole different set of complications because they may not open at all. So it wouldn't matter what the governor says about the church because that's not our building. So we just have to wait and see and get all the information. We're also taking a survey of our congregation, and we're going to process all that information and make a decision. The great thing is that we have church every day. We're still doing ministry. We're not limited by what happens on Sunday in the building. So we're continuing to serve the community. We're continuing to meet in groups through Zoom. And so ministry is happening. People are growing in their faith, exercising their faith, expressing God's love in the community. And that's the most important thing for us right now.
Well, you guys are really good at technology with the Rock Church. You got a team of people who, when they said services are going virtual, you're like, we got this, I mean, and I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, that you guys have already done virtual services in the past. So this was a thing that when people were at home, even if you were at home normally on Sunday, you could watch online.
Right. We had we have 7 campuses, and one of them is online. So we just put everybody on that campus, what we call the campus, and they're watching online, they interact, they get their notes for the sermons, they get all the announcements. So it was already functioning, and now we have a show every Sunday, 9 a.m. right here on Fox 5 as well, for people who don't go to our church and people are sitting home. So we're still doing a lot of ministry. We're going to continue to do that. We love serving the community, and that's what we're going to continue to do. And when we meet in the building, it'll happen when it happens. But I think what's important for us, and I've been communicating to our church, is that don't think not being able to meet in the building on Sunday puts any limitations on you expressing God's love to people and growing in your ability to do that. That's the focus. So we don't want to get too distracted with that one thing and let that spoil the bigger issue and the bigger responsibility and privilege we have is to walk with God.
And what do you think, let's just say today, hypothetically, that all of a sudden these restrictions are lifted on Sunday. Will you be able to, come next Sunday, open your doors? And then do you think a percentage of people will still stay home and then some will show up?
No, we won't be back next week. It'll be a while. The restrictions, saying you can go back to your building is one thing. Saying you can go back to your building at 25% capacity or some limited number is an entirely different thing. For example, there are friends of mine who opened their church and 95% of the people didn't come back. People didn't go in the children's ministry. So there's a lot of things we have to consider. We have to find out, one, what the restrictions are. That is number one, because the restrictions can be so onerous that it doesn't make it feasible for us to even come back. So we just have to see what those are first, but we won't be back next week no matter what happens.
I didn't even think about the children's ministry because a lot of parents obviously drop the kids off, and then you've got, so many kids in one space. What would you say the biggest challenge has been for your congregation during the pandemic? You've been so positive through all of this and done so many service projects for the city of San Diego. Has there been anything that you've found to be challenging?
I think the biggest challenge are the people in the church dealing with the fallout of the coronavirus. I know they shut down the country, and sometimes you can put out the fire, but drown everybody in the process. So I think a lot of people have lost, livelihoods. They're in fear. There's a lot of domestic violence in the community overall, suicide, and so people come to church because they need God for, and acknowledge that they need God. We all need God, but they acknowledge they need God for stresses in their life. And this has just added a 100-pound gorilla of stress on people. That's the biggest thing. So, you know, we have service on Sunday, and people can come for an hour and a half, but they still have 23 and a half hours for that day, and 22 and a half hours for that day, and then 6 more days of the week they got to deal with life. And so those are the days and the time that we're spending trying to help people, and that's the most important part. And not only getting the people in the church to a point where they can survive and thrive, but then where they can go help somebody else. And so the biggest burden for people is just dealing with the restrictions that are on the whole country, just like everybody else. And it's been tough. So it's time for us to get out of this, time for us to come back, go to work, open up our restaurants. I'm glad to see the restaurants opening and people getting on the beach and exercising and enjoying their life.
Yeah, and I know, Miles, you've got a lot of small groups and outreach teams that are out there in hopes that if people need some help, they know how to get in touch with you. We love talking to you, and thank you so much for giving us your positivity.
God bless you. And I want to acknowledge all the people in the military on Memorial Day. My dad was in the military. I'm getting ready to go visit his grave over at the Miramar Cemetery. But thank you for everybody. Thank you for all the military family here. God bless you. We appreciate you.
Absolutely. Miles, thank you for that.
God bless you.